Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be exploring the various types of manipulative techniques. Let's be honest, we've all engaged in manipulation to some degree, even if unintentionally. It's simply a part of human interaction. That's why I've compiled a list of psychological tactics commonly used by seasoned manipulators, and I'll also explain how to effectively counter them. Passive aggression. In this type of manipulation, the person does not express their discontent openly, but demonstrates their resentment in various ways. By remaining silent, responding monosyllabically or sarcastically, ignoring you, or refusing to answer the direct question, "What happened?" As a result, you begin to believe that you are somehow at fault and try to appease the manipulator in every way possible. The ideal way to counter this type of manipulation is to ignore the passive aggression. Continue to behave as you normally would. Sooner or later, the manipulator will tire of playing the victim. Emotional blackmail. Emotional blackmail involves the manipulator resorting to threats in conflict situations. For example, they might say that you don't appreciate them at all and that they'll leave you, or conversely, that they'll die if you leave. In this way, by playing on your sense of guilt, duty, and fears, the manipulator gets what they want from you. To counter this type of manipulation, it's best to ignore such threats. If they persist, end the relationship. If the person threatens self-harm, firmly recommend that they seek professional help. Bullying. Bullying involves the manipulator constantly criticizing you, meticulously dissecting each of your mistakes, and gleefully sharing your failures with others while mocking them. In this way, the manipulator simultaneously bolsters their own ego and undermines your self-esteem in order to bind you more tightly to them. The manipulator conveys the message that a weak being like you would likely not survive in this cruel world without their help. In response to such manipulation, you need to remember how you coped with life's challenges before encountering the manipulator. Gaslighting. Gaslighting involves the manipulator regularly denying that they said or promised something. They may misrepresent your words or accuse you of misunderstanding them. They convince you that you are exaggerating or overreacting to the situation, thereby causing you to doubt your own memory and stop trusting yourself. You become increasingly dependent on the manipulator's assessments and interpretations. Gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse that has a devastating impact on the victim's psyche. To combat this type of manipulation, it's important to learn to protect your personal boundaries and maintain emotional distance from the manipulator. Excessive flattery. In this type of manipulation, the manipulator constantly emphasizes how incredible you are and how highly they value you. For example, they may repeatedly say things like, "Only you understand me," or "No one else can handle this task but you." As a result, fearing that you will cease to be someone exceptional for the manipulator, you start doing what they want, taking on all the unpleasant work, supporting the manipulator in everything, and trying to anticipate and fulfill their desires. To escape this type of manipulation, it's important to frequently remind yourself that your worth is intrinsic, not dependent on someone else's opinion of you as a good and talented person. Demand for proof. In this type of manipulation, the person constantly demands that you prove your feelings for them are genuine. They may ask you to buy expensive gifts, pay off their debts, or solve all of their other problems. This is their way of having you confirm that you truly love them. As a result, you end up in an emotional captivity, starting to fulfill any request the manipulator makes. To escape this type of manipulation, try to discuss with your partner why they are unsure of your feelings. Open dialogue is what will help you break free of this dependent position. Isolation. In this type of manipulation, your partner tries to ensure that you spend as much time with them as possible. They speak disapprovingly of your friends and relatives and express dissatisfaction if you go to meet up with them. In this way, they try to make your entire life revolve around the relationship with them, making it easier for them to control you. To fight this type of manipulation, you must not forget that there are many important people in your life. To maintain balance, it's crucial that you devote attention to each of them. Inconsistency. The manipulator may exhibit not just inconsistent, but even contradictory behavior. They can act illogically and contradictorily so that you start trying to figure out what's going on and thereby get drawn into their manipulative games. To combat this type of manipulation, it's important to pay attention to any discrepancies in the person's behavior and clearly state the specific format of actions and behavior that is acceptable to you. Do this directly and openly in order to disarm the manipulator. Guilt tripping. To compel others to submit to their desires, manipulators often resort to this tool. This type of manipulation involves blaming you for absolutely every problem and failure, so that you try to prove your value and importance to the person in response. To combat such manipulations, it's important to notice the manipulator's attempts to make you feel guilty for setting boundaries or making independent decisions. Pressure. This technique is used to compel others to conform to the manipulator's desires. Ultimatums, persistent requests, or threats often serve as tools of pressure and coercion. To combat such manipulations, it's important to avoid issuing any ultimatums and to establish firm personal boundaries. Victimhood. Manipulators will often resort to portraying themselves as victims. They do this to garner sympathy and support, frequently even from third parties. Pay attention to whether the person presents themselves as helpless or talks about being treated unfairly in an overly insistent manner. To combat such manipulations, it's important to emphasize equality and maturity in the interaction. Dubious approval. As a means of controlling the behavior of others, manipulators are capable of using approval and disapproval. As soon as you stop meeting the manipulator's expectations, they cease approving your actions and start distancing themselves, so that you begin behaving in a way that is convenient for the manipulator. To combat this type of manipulation, it's important not to seek approval from others and to learn to value your personal victories and merits independently. Speed. Manipulators will often insist on a quick decision, limiting your time for reflection and analysis of alternatives. Therefore, try to be attentive, resist making a rushed choice, and do not hurry when it comes to important decisions. Unrealistic promises. Manipulators may make promises that are too good to be true in order to win your trust. But once that goal is achieved, there's a high likelihood that the promises will not be kept. Therefore, try to pay close attention to your conversation partner and critically evaluate their words. This will protect you from empty manipulations. Well, there you have it, an overview of the various manipulative tactics that you may encounter. Remember, the key to defending against these is being aware of the signs and not allowing yourself to be pulled into the manipulator's game. If you found this information helpful, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content. And if you really want to support the work I'm doing, head over to my Patreon page and consider becoming a monthly patron. Your support would be hugely appreciated. Thanks for watching, and stay vigilant out there.